I am 80 years old. That still sounds strange to say out loud. 80. When I was young, 80 seemed like a number that belonged to someone else, someone distant, someone who had lived an entirely different kind of life. But here I am. My hands shake a little when I hold my coffee in the morning. My knees complain when I stand. My reflection shows me a face I sometimes don't recognize, even though I've watched it change slowly, year after year. But the strangest thing about being this age is not the body that has grown old. It's the clarity. It's the way the fog lifts and you really see what mattered and what didn't. And that's why I'm sitting here now talking to you, because for the first time in my 80 years, I'm ready to admit the mistakes I made, not to punish myself, not to drown in regret, but because if even one person hears this and changes course, then maybe these mistakes will mean something. I want to tell you about the first mistake, and it's the one that haunts me most. I spent most of my life waiting for the right moment, waiting for things to settle down, waiting for permission, I suppose, though I didn't know that's what I was doing. When I was in my 20s, I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world, to stand in places I'd only read about in books. But I told myself I couldn't. I had just started a job. I had responsibilities. I had a future to build. So I waited. I told myself I'd go later, when I had more money, when I had more time, when things were more stable. And then I was 30. And the wanting was still there, but now I had a mortgage. I had a family starting. I had even more reasons to wait. So I did. I waited through my 30s, my 40s, my 50s. I kept thinking, soon I'll do it. Soon I'll take that trip, write that letter, learn that language, visit that place. But soon is a lie we tell ourselves. Soon is how we make peace with not living. I finally traveled when I was 67. My wife had passed 2 years earlier. My children were grown and scattered across the country, living their own lives. I had time then. I had money saved. I had nothing stopping me. So I went to Italy, to the places I'd dreamed about for 40 years. And it was beautiful. The light in Florence, the water in Venice, the hills in Tuscany. It was everything I'd imagined. But as I stood there, looking at the Duomo, I felt this ache in my chest. Not because it wasn't wonderful, but because I was alone. My wife, who had wanted to go with me, who had asked me year after year if we could finally take that trip, wasn't there. And I realized I had waited so long that the person I wanted to share it with was gone. I had spent 40 years preparing for a moment that, when it finally came, was missing the very thing that would have made it matter. That's the first mistake. I waited. I thought life was something that happened later, after I'd checked all the boxes, after everything was perfect. But life was happening the whole time. It was happening in my 20s when I said no. It was happening in my 30s when I said not yet. It was happening in my 40s and 50s when I said soon. And I missed it. Not all of it, but enough of it that now, at 80, I feel the weight of those missed moments like stones in my pocket. The second mistake is related, but different. I was always busy, always working, always doing, always moving towards some goal that seemed just out of reach. I remember my son, when he was maybe 7 or 8, asking me to play catch in the backyard. I was in the garage, organizing tools or fixing something. I don't even remember what. And I told him, not right now, buddy, I'm busy. Maybe later. He said okay and walked back inside. I didn't think much of it. It seemed like a small thing. There would be other times to play catch, except there weren't. Not really, because the next time he asked, I was busy again, and the time after that. And eventually, he stopped asking. He grew up. He found other people to play catch with, other things to do. And I kept being busy. I kept fixing things, organizing things, working on things that I thought were important. But I can't remember a single thing I fixed in that garage. I can't tell you what I was organizing or why it mattered. But I remember the look on his face when I said, not right now. I remember that. People talk about quality time, as if time can be divided into quality and non-quality, as if some moments count and others don't. But that's not how it works. That's not how memory works. The moments that stay with you aren't always the big ones. They're not always the vacations or the birthdays or the planned events. Sometimes they're just an afternoon, a game of catch, a walk around the block, a conversation at the kitchen table. But you have to be there for them. You have to stop being busy long enough to notice they're happening. I didn't do that enough. I thought I was building something for my family by working so hard, by always doing, by never stopping. But what I was really doing was missing them. I was in the same house, but I wasn't there. Not really. My son is 52 now. We have a good relationship. We talk on the phone. We see each other on holidays. He's a kind man, a good father. But there's a distance between us that I put there, not on purpose. But through 1,000 small choices, 1,000 moments when I said, not right now. And I can't go back. I can't undo that. I can only sit here at 80 and see it clearly for what it was, a mistake, a terrible, quiet mistake that didn't feel like a mistake at the time. The third mistake is about anger. I held on to anger for too long. Small angers, big angers, all of them. Someone would slight me, insult me, wrong me in some way, and I'd carry it. I'd turn it over in my mind, rehearse what I should have said, imagine confrontations that never happened. I wasted years of my life being angry at people who probably forgot about me the next day. And the anger didn't protect me. It didn't make me stronger or safer. It just made me smaller. It just made the world feel darker than it was. I remember a neighbor I fought with over a property line. This was maybe 30 years ago. We lived next to each other for 15 years, and for most of that time, we barely spoke because of a disagreement over a fence. A fence. I can't even remember the details now. Who was right? Who was wrong? What the argument was really about. But I remember the anger. I remember how it felt righteous, like I was defending something important. And I held on to it. I let it turn into bitterness, into resentment. And then one day I heard he'd died, just like that, a heart attack. And I felt this strange emptiness. Not grief exactly, because we weren't friends, but a recognition that I'd wasted all those years being angry at someone who was just a person, just a neighbor, just another man trying to live his life. And now he was gone, and the anger was pointless, and the fence didn't matter, and I couldn't take back all those years of cold silence. Anger's like that. It feels necessary in the moment. It feels like it's protecting you or proving something, but it's just weight. It's just something heavy you carry until it becomes part of you, until you forget what it's like to not carry it. And then one day you realize you've been carrying it for no reason. The person you're angry at has moved on. or they're gone, or they never cared in the first place, and you're the only one still holding it. I wish I'd understood that earlier. I wish I'd let things go. Not because the people who wronged me deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. Because life is too short and too precious to spend it nursing wounds that don't need to be nursed. The fourth mistake is harder to talk about, but I need to say it. I didn't tell people I loved them. Not enough. Not nearly enough. I grew up in a time and a family where those words weren't said easily. We showed love through actions, through providing, through being there. But we didn't say it. And I carried that into my own life. I love my wife deeply. I love my children. I love my parents. But I didn't tell them as often as I should have. I assumed they knew. I thought it was understood. But words matter. Hearing it matters. And I was too proud or too uncomfortable or too locked into old patterns to say it as much as I felt it. My wife told me she loved me almost every day, in the morning before I left for work, at night before we went to sleep, in little notes she'd leave in my lunch. She said it easily, naturally, like it was the simplest thing in the world, and I'd say it back sometimes, but not always. Sometimes I'd just nod or squeeze her hand or say something practical like, "Don't forget to pick up milk." And she never complained. She never asked for more. But I think about that now. I think about all the times she said it and I didn't say it back. All the times I could have told her how much she meant to me, how much I admired her, how grateful I was that she'd chosen to build a life with me. And I didn't. I just assumed there would be more time, more chances, more moments. And then she got sick. And even then, even when I knew time was running out, I struggled to say it. Not because I didn't feel it, but because I'd spent so many years not saying it that it felt awkward, like I was trying to become a different person at the last minute. I did tell her near the end. I held her hand and I told her I loved her, that she was the best thing that ever happened to me, that I couldn't imagine my life without her. And she smiled, and she said she knew, and she said she loved me too. But I think about all the years before that, all the ordinary days when I could have said it and didn't. And I think about what a gift it would have been, not just to her, but to me, to practice saying what I felt, to live in a way where love was spoken out loud, not just assumed. The fifth mistake is about pride. I was too proud to ask for help, too proud to admit when I was wrong, too proud to show vulnerability. I thought being strong meant never needing anyone, never showing weakness, never letting people see me struggle. But that's not strength. That's just isolation. That's just building walls between yourself and everyone who cares about you. I went through a period in my 50s when work was hard. The company I'd spent 20 years building was failing. We were losing clients, losing money, and I didn't know how to fix it. I'd come home exhausted, worried, scared. But when my wife asked me how I was, I'd say fine. When my friends asked if I needed anything, I'd say, no, everything's under control. I was drowning, and I wouldn't reach out for a hand because I thought needing help meant I'd failed. And the loneliness of that, the weight of carrying all that fear and stress alone, it nearly broke me. The business failed anyway, but it didn't have to be as painful as it was. I could have let people in. I could have admitted I was struggling. I could have accepted help, but I was too proud. And pride is just fear dressed up as strength. The sixth mistake, and this is one I think about often, is that I didn't listen. Not really. I heard people. I responded to them, but I didn't listen. I was always thinking about what I was going to say next, or how their words affected me, or what I needed to do later. I wasn't present in conversations. I wasn't curious about other people's lives in the way I should have been. I treated conversations like transactions, like things to get through, rather than moments to connect. My daughter once told me, when she was in her 30s, that she never felt like I really listened to her growing up. She said she'd try to talk to me about her day, her friends, her worries, and I'd be reading the newspaper or watching TV or thinking about work. She said she always felt like she was interrupting me, even when I told her she wasn't. And she was right. I hate that she was right, but she was. I wasn't giving her my attention. I was giving her the scraps of attention left over after everything else. And she felt it. Children always feel it. People always feel it. I've tried to be better about this in recent years. When someone talks to me now, I try to put everything else down. I try to look at them, really look at them, and listen to not just their words, but what's underneath the words. And it's amazing how much you miss when you're not listening, how much depth there is in people, how much they're willing to share if you just give them your attention. But I spent most of my life not knowing that. I spent most of my life skimming the surface of conversations, and I missed so much. The seventh mistake is about fear. I let fear make too many decisions for me. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear of not being good enough. That fear kept me small. It kept me from taking risks, from being honest, from trying things that might not work out. I stayed in jobs I didn't like because I was afraid to leave. I didn't speak up in moments when I should have because I was afraid of conflict. I didn't pursue dreams because I was afraid of failing. And all that fear, all those years of playing it safe, they didn't protect me from pain. They just made my life smaller. They just made me a spectator in my own life. There's a poem I read once, and I can't remember who wrote it, but it talked about the death of dreams. How we kill our dreams slowly, not with one big no, but with 1,000 small maybes, with later, with someday, with let me think about it. And that's what fear does. It doesn't make you say no outright. It makes you say maybe. It makes you wait. It makes you hesitate until the moment has passed and the dream has died of neglect. I wanted to write when I was young, stories, articles, maybe a book. I loved words, loved the way they could build worlds and capture feelings. But I was afraid I wasn't good enough, afraid of being rejected, afraid of what people would think. So I never tried. Not really. I wrote things in notebooks that I never showed anyone. I started stories I never finished, and I told myself it didn't matter, that it was just a hobby, that I didn't really want it anyway. But I did want it. I wanted it badly. I was just too afraid to find out if I could do it. And now, at 80, I know I'll never write that book. Not because I'm not capable, but because I spent 60 years being afraid instead of trying. The eighth mistake is about comparison. I spent too much time comparing my life to other people's lives. My neighbor's car was nicer, so I felt like I was failing. My colleague got promoted, so I felt inadequate. My friend's marriage seemed happier, so I felt like mine was lacking. I was constantly measuring my life against others. And I was always coming up short because comparison is a rigged game. You're always comparing your inside to someone else's outside. You're always comparing your struggles to their highlights. And it made me ungrateful. It made me unable to see the good in my own life because I was always looking elsewhere, always thinking the grass was greener, always feeling like I was missing out. But the truth is, everyone is struggling with something. Everyone has pain they don't show. That neighbor with the nice car was going through a divorce. That colleague who got promoted was barely seeing his kids. That friend with the happy marriage was dealing with a sick parent. I didn't know any of that at the time because I was too busy comparing, too busy envying, too busy feeling sorry for myself. And I wasted so much energy on that. Energy I could have spent appreciating what I had. Energy I could have spent building a life I actually wanted instead of trying to have someone else's life. The ninth mistake is simple but profound. I didn't rest. I didn't let myself rest. I confused busyness with importance. I thought if I stopped, if I slowed down, I'd fall behind, I'd lose ground, I'd somehow be less valuable. So I kept moving, kept working, kept doing, even when I was tired, even when my body was telling me to stop, even when my mind was telling me I needed a break. I pushed through. I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor, and it damaged me. It damaged my health, my relationships, my ability to enjoy life, because you can't enjoy life when you're always exhausted. You can't be present when you're always depleted. Rest isn't laziness. Rest is necessary. Rest is what allows you to actually live instead of just survive. But I didn't know that. I thought rest was something you earned, something you did when everything else was finished. But everything is never finished. There's always more to do. And if you wait until everything is done to rest, you'll never rest. The 10th mistake, and I'm telling you this because I think it's one of the most common, is that I took things for granted. My health until I lost it. My mobility until it became difficult. My wife until she was gone. My children's childhood until they were grown. I thought everything would always be there. I thought I had endless time to appreciate things, to be grateful, to notice the small gifts of ordinary life. But nothing lasts. Nothing stays. And the things you take for granted are the things you'll miss most when they're gone. I used to walk every morning just around the neighborhood, nothing special. And I'd see the same things every day, the same trees, the same houses, the same sky, and I barely noticed them. I was thinking about work or problems or what I needed to do later. I wasn't there. I wasn't present for those walks. And now I can't walk like that anymore. My knees don't allow it. And I'd give anything to take one more walk around that neighborhood, to see those trees, to feel that morning air, and to actually be there for it, to notice it, to appreciate it. That's what taking things for granted means. It means you're surrounded by gifts and you don't see them. It means you're living a life you'll one day miss and you don't know it. So here I am at 80, sitting in front of you, admitting these mistakes for the first time. Not because I want sympathy, not because I think it changes anything for me, but because maybe, just maybe, you can hear this and make different choices. Maybe you can stop waiting. Maybe you can put down the work and play catch with your kid. Maybe you can let go of the anger. Maybe you can say, I love you more often. Maybe you can listen when people talk to you. Maybe you can try the thing you're afraid of. Maybe you can stop comparing. and start appreciating. Maybe you can rest. Maybe you can notice the life you're living right now, today, in this very moment. Because this is it. This is your life, not later, not when things settle down, not when you've achieved everything you're trying to achieve. Now, right now. This conversation, this day, this breath, is happening now, and you can miss it, like I missed so much of mine. Or you can be here for it. You can choose presence. You can choose love. You can choose courage. You can choose gratitude. I can't go back. I can't undo my mistakes, but you can learn from them. You can make different choices. You can live in a way that when you're 80 and looking back, you won't have the same regrets I have. You'll have lived, truly lived. Not perfectly, but fully. Awake, present, aware. Don't wait. Don't be too busy. Don't hold on to anger. Don't keep your love silent. Don't let pride isolate you. Don't let fear make your decisions. Don't compare your life to others. Don't forget to rest. Don't take anything for granted. Just live. Be here. Pay attention. Love people while they're still here. Do the things that matter while you still can. Forgive, rest, try, fail, try again. And above all, be present for your own life. Because one day, you'll be old like me looking back. And the question won't be what you achieved or what you accumulated or how well you compared to others. The question will be, were you there? Did you show up for your own life? Did you love? Did you try? Did you notice? I'm telling you all this because I want you to be able to say yes. I want you to live in such a way that when you're 80, sitting where I'm sitting now, you can look back and feel peace. Not because your life was perfect, but because you were there for it. Because you didn't make the same mistakes I made. Because you chose to live while you still could. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening.